everyone, Gary Monterosa. Welcome to this week's episode of Still Crazy After All These Beers. And you know, they always say beer and baseball go together so well. No question that they do. If you know anything about baseball, and especially the Philadelphia Phillies, you recognize this gentleman to my left. This is Mr. Andy Musser, who for 25 years or so was the voice of the Phillies.
Close enough, Gary. And if you know anybody that sells apple pie, that's the one thing left in my life. I haven't done that.
Well, the point is, how do you relate to this? You now actually work for Anchor Brewing.
I do. When I was traveling with the Phillies, a lot of free time during the day, so I made it my hobby to tour various breweries around the country. And Anchor, of course, was one of them. And when I drank their beer, it was like that old Ford commercial when the light went off, you know. I couldn't believe that beer would taste like that. And I've traveled around and I've tasted a lot of different beers. I've never tasted one that good.
Well, obviously, in your travels, and as you mentioned, being all around the country, you've had so many different beers. Until Anchor, were you drinking primarily the mass-marketed beers?
Primarily imported beers.
Imported?
Yeah, I thought that drinking a Heineken was the height of it, and then I graduated from there to Beck's.
Now, the Anchor beer that you had was Anchor Steam?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, Fritz bought the brewery, Fritz Maytag, bought it in 1965. And it was right about that time that I started drinking the beer. As a matter of fact, I was living in San Diego, and I was also doing some work in Los Angeles for the USC Trojans. And I would drive back and forth that corridor between San Diego and Los Angeles. And there was a restaurant about halfway between them. It was called the Rusty Pelican. And I was having dinner in there one night, and I said, you know, bring me a beer. What do you have? And she said, well, we've got this new beer from San Francisco. What is it? Anchor Steam. Bring it over. I'll try it. Holy cow. It was sensational. And Fritz later told me the Rusty Pelican in Newport Beach was their first draft account outside of the Bay Area.
Isn't that amazing? And, you know, the style is called California Common. So you really can't use the term steam. If someone else creates a beer in this style, you can't use the term steam because that's copyrighted, correct?
That's correct. What happened was that one time there were 28 breweries in San Francisco that made a steam beer, but they all disappeared after Prohibition. And so Fritz trademarked the name, and hence people who brew it now call it California Common, but it wasn't called that then. It was called steam beer.
You know, when you're involved with a brewery that has a flagship beer as Steam is, you kind of tend to forget about some of the other flavors, and yet you know that perhaps one of my favorite is Liberty Ale from Anchor Brewing.
You know, I got to tell you, Gary, that frustrates the daylights out of us. You know, we don't want to become a one-beer brewery. We do sell more steam than anything else, which is understandable. But our Liberty Ale is delicious, and here doing this Brew Fest today, as so many times when I do, people love our porter. You know, I think in the field of porters, we probably don't have as much competition as we do in some other styles, and our porter is sensational.
And you know, Fritz has actually moved beyond beers. He's doing other things as well. He has wines.
He has wines. Of course, he lives on a vineyard up in Napa Valley. He built a winery right across the street from the brewery. He's probably the only guy that hauls grapes in from Napa Valley to make wine in the city. But he also has a distillery in the basement of the brewery where we make a 100% malted rye whiskey, and we also make 2 styles of gin.
I've got a bottle of Old Potrero in my basement right now, and I got
to it. You can't get it these days.
I only serve that at special occasions for special people.
Thank you. I'll be over.
And you have been, as a matter of fact.
I have been to your house. That's true.
I attended, I guess it was your last season broadcasting, which was right after the tragedy of 9/11, 2001. That was your final season broadcasting.
Yes, that's right. And it was a tough year to bow out because they weren't very good in those days. And, you know, I had a tough run, really. I had the team in the World Series 3 times. We won once. But there was a stretch there between 83 and 93 where the Phillies lost every year. So it was a long time.
Do you still, I know it's been 7-8 years since you've been out of the business, but you still maintain contact with any of the people?
Oh, yeah. I go down there 10, 12 times a year, and I talk to the other broadcasters when I'm down there. I go in and give them a little advice before the game, you know.
Well, you know, it's obviously worked because this, as we're taping this is the second year that they've clinched the National League East.
I know. I've got a World Series ring here.
Boy, get a shot. Can we get a shot of that, the World Series ring?
Almost hoping that they don't win it again, because then they won't give me one this time. So I'm hoping this is the only one in the history of the franchise.
Yes.
So I'm very proud of it, and I wear it every day. And you'd be surprised at these brewfests how many people remark about it.
Absolutely. That is something else. That's right. Andy Musser from the Philadelphia Phillies and now from Anchor Brewing. Thanks for joining us today. You're representing a great product in the beer world as you represented a great product in the baseball world.
Gary, I'd like to thank you, and I tell you what, talk about representing. You're a great ambassador for beer. Beer in general, not just our product. I know you love it, but you're a good beer guy, and we love you.
Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next week on Still Crazy After All These Beers.
I'm still crazy after all of these beers. Through the years, winter, summer, springtime too. Crazy here after all these beers. There is only one for me, and you know that I'll always be crazy after all these beers.